Hello everybody. We'd like to welcome you to our virtual open day session. I'm Rose, the Acting Vice Principal. Here today with me we have Kunle, our Principal, and Helen, the Senior College Administrator. We also have some of our students, Alistair, the JCR President, Delilah, a first year Japanese studies student, James, a first year law student, Danielle, a third year geographer, Stephen, a third year maths student, Rian, a first year economics student, Alex, a first year modern languages and cultures student, Phoebe, a second year social scientist, Oscar, a first year natural scientist, and Jack, an MSc psychologist. Trevelyan is one of 17 Durham colleges. Teaching all takes place within academic departments, but our residential colleges are where our students do pretty much everything else, from eating to socialising to studying. Trevs was built in 1966 and is located on the hill, so it's right next door to the main campus with the libraries and a lot of department buildings. We're also one of the smallest colleges, with around 1,000 students, 800 or so undergrads and about 200 postgraduates. About a third of our students live in the college, with the others, mainly second and third year undergraduates or postgraduate students, living in private accommodation in town. One of Trevelyan's big selling points is that almost everything is under one roof. Whereas other Durham colleges have separate accommodation blocks and sometimes even separate campuses, Trevs is completely interconnected. This means that you can access all of our accommodation blocks and facilities without ever leaving the building. Our first year undergrads all live in single bed rooms with shared facilities. Rooms are clustered into communal landings of 6 rather than long corridors. This makes it easier to get to know your neighbours and adds to our friendly atmosphere. Our students tell us that they love this layout and it makes them feel at home right away. Trevs is a catered college. That means that you get breakfast, lunch and dinner every day during term time. Our catering options are really flexible and we can cater for most dietary requirements. We also have small kitchens on the landings with microwaves, kettles and hobs, so you can cook for yourself if you can't wait for the next mealtime. We have great facilities at Trevs, including a large library and IT room, group study rooms, a college bar and cafe, and loads of great social spaces. The college is set in beautiful grounds, and we hold most of our summer events outside. Each year, we host a busy calendar of events, including Trevstock, our 12-hour music festival, Summer Ball, a black tie ball, and regular formal dinners in celebration of Christmas, Diwali, Burns Night, and more. One of the best things about the college system is the variety of co-curricular activities on offer. As well as the university level teams that you would find at any uni, we also have college teams. This means there are loads more opportunities to get involved and at many different levels. We have 37 different college clubs and societies, from football to debating, and if you don't have what you want, it's easy to set up a new one. We also have excellent sporting and music facilities, including a newly renovated gym, indoor and outdoor sports courts, a soundproofed recording studio, and a 60-seat theatre. The most important part of any college, however, is its community. You will be joining a strong, diverse and vibrant community of fantastic people who make Trevs what it is. We believe in providing all of our students with the opportunities to learn, explore and excel, as captured in our college tagline, Explore Without Limits. So that's a very brief overview of Trevs. We'd love to tell you more about Trevelyan and why it's so special to us. Okay, so now we're going to the Q&A section. So if you just type your questions in the questions bar and we'll come and answer them. So somebody has asked, is there a dress code at the college? Alistair, you're JCR President. Do you want to come on and talk a bit about that? So maybe particularly with formals?
Yeah, hi. So in terms of dress code, in general life, no, there's no dress code. You can wear what you want. That's for like obviously going to lectures and then kicking about in college. The only time there is somewhat of dress code is at some of our events, particularly formals. So formals are formal dinners that we have every fortnight throughout term, and they're a nice like 3-course dinner where you can sit down with your friends have a meal, and usually get dressed up. So for most of the standard formals, the dress code is smart. So usually just a bit below black tie. So that can be from like suits to formal dress related to countries. So for example, I've worn a kilt to some of them, or just like nice dresses or something like that. And we also have some which are more casual and like fancy dress. So the dress code for that would be whatever the theme is. And the only other thing is for some of our events, such as our balls and everything, usually they're smart, so you'd have to dress up for them. But apart from these events, like there's no dress code for anything else.
Brilliant, thanks, Alistair. So somebody has asked, is Trev's a gowned college? So Alistair, you've answered that a little bit in your answer a minute ago. Do you want to come back on and just talk a bit more about formals and gowns?
Yeah, so I'll just expand on what I said in the last answer a bit. So as I said, formals are these 3-course meals that we host in the dining hall every fortnight, and how we have them on, like, especially to celebrate events. So in the past we've had a Diwali one, we've had a Burns Night one, we have one every Christmas. And these, as I say, are usually the bigger ones are formally, like the dress code's formal, and these ones are also gowns. So we are one of the colleges that does wear gowns. So you wear the gowns for matriculation at the start when you arrive in Freshers Week, and then you wear the gowns for quite a few of the formals that we have. So yeah.
Perfect, thanks, Alistair. So somebody has asked about ensuite rooms. So as Luigi has answered in the chat, so all of our first year undergraduates live in rooms with shared facilities. So that's shared bathrooms and kitchens between groups of 6. And then postgraduates or students returning in their 2nd and 3rd years can apply to live in our ensuite rooms. So our students that lived in this year, Delilah, do you want to come on and talk a bit about college facilities and how you found living in as a first year?
Yep, so the landings are organised with 6 rooms and then a shared kitchen, which has sort of a fridge and a microwave and toaster, that sort of thing, and a bathroom with a toilet and a shower that are both separate so that different people can be using them at the same time. I found it very easy just working out with my landing, okay, who's got lectures at what time, I'm going to take the next shower. It was very similar to sort of home life of just having that one bathroom rather than en suites.
Brilliant, thanks, Delilah. Somebody has asked, how far away is the psychology department and lectures from the college? Jack, you're in psychology, aren't you? Can you come on and talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The psychology department is not very far away at all. You basically just walk through Grey College. There is a little bit of a hill, but that's true of anywhere you go in Durham. So you basically just go up the hill and then the psychology department is right there for you. Most other departments are in a different direction, but psychology and some of the science departments are very close.
Great, thank you. So in a similar vein, somebody has asked about the engineering department. So are any of our students engineers? I don't think you are you? No. So the engineering department is on the science site, so it's really close. Danielle, you do geography, don't you? That's right next door. Can you come on and talk a bit about that?
Yes, so engineering and geography are all on the science site, as is the Bill Bryson Library, so the main library that all students can use. So it's probably about a 10-minute walk down the hill to the science site. Some people with longer legs, I'm sure, can make it quicker if you're running a bit late for your lectures. So there's a huge amount of subjects that happen at the science site, and they're all within about 5 minutes from one side of the science site to the other. So chemistry is probably the furthest building away, and then physics is probably the closest. Also with the new teaching and learning centre, which some subjects who just need a classroom or a lecture hall that's not specific to their department, they happen in the teaching learning centre or the Calman Learning Centre. So they're both just kind of general buildings, and that's probably only about 5 minutes down the hill.
Great, thanks, Danielle. So somebody has asked, how often are there college events? Who wants to come in and talk a bit more about that?
I can, right. So there's events a lot of time throughout the year. It just depends on what you're talking about in terms of scale and what it actually is. So in terms of like our biggest events, we usually have like one like ball or big event every term. So in our first term, we have a winter ball, which is held in December time, and then we have a similar sort of size ball held in college in March, and then we have our biggest event, summer ball, which is in June. But we also have a number of other like smaller events throughout the year. So we have regular open mic nights known as Unplugged, which are held in the bar. As mentioned before, we have formals quite regularly. We also have bar nights after all those formals, so that's just music being played in the bar after the formal. We also have just like other general events that are held throughout the year, which are usually smaller in scale, but there is stuff quite regularly. There is some sort of thing that you could class as like a bigger, a decently sized scale event, like every 2 weeks at least. So there is always something going on, and beyond that there's always other like a lot smaller scale things, whether it's sports fixtures and all that happening every week. So there's always something happening, especially within college. It's a really thriving community with a lot going on.
Perfect, thanks Alistair. So similarly, someone has asked, can you elaborate a bit more on what the ball is, and is it a bit like a school prom? Danielle, do you want to come in and talk a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest event, as Alistair said, is the summer ball, which happens every June. And it's definitely an event that pretty much most of college will attend. There'll be some people who don't want to go, but it's definitely a big event that everyone enjoys. So I guess it is a bit similar to a school prom. You get dressed up in black tie suits or fancy dresses or nice skirts and things like that. And there's so much going on. So previously we used to hold the event within college. So college got transformed during the day into some elaborate theme that there were so many decorations and everything going on. Last year we actually took the event to an outside venue. So if you want to look it up, it was at Durham Manor. So it was very fancy inside. We had a 3-course meal to start off the evening in their big dining hall. And then there were a couple of entertainment things going on through the meal. So we had some impromptu like magicians. There was some music going on. And that takes probably like an hour and a half. And then we had a Prosecco reception to introduce the event and to greet people as they arrived. We all arrived by buses from college, so it was we left about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I think, to get to the meal in time. And then after the meal, there's loads of fairground rides. There was dodgems. There was a big kind of roundy thing that people love to go on. There was a mini golf. We had fireworks. There were loads of musicians that were playing. Some that come from Trevs, some that come from outside of in other colleges. There's like a live photographer going around. There's a stand photography that you can have like professional photos taken with your friends. Essentially, it's a very big event that everyone has a great time. So I'd say it's probably a bit bigger than a prom, although I'm sure some schools do quite an elaborate prom.
Great, thanks Danielle. So someone has asked, is there access to nice walking routes around college? So I mean, Durham it's a lovely city. There's lots of green spaces. We're right on the riverbank. Does anyone want to come on and talk a bit more about sort of where is nice around the college?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So certainly around the college, there's loads of really nice spaces. If you go down, there's the Botanical Gardens, which is not very far away at all. And if you go past that, you get the now infamous Bluebell Woods, which is an absolutely gorgeous place to walk. It's got really nice fields. You can go look at the sheep and the cows and the horses and walk through that. And it's properly like being in a wood. Also along the river is always gorgeous. And if you go in the other direction, we've got Observatory Hill, which you can walk along and go up there, and it's got beautiful views of the whole of Durham. It's also got nice walking routes through there as well as a few other little woods and kind of nooks and crannies that you can find if you're willing to explore.
Great, thanks, Jack. Somebody has asked, are there pets allowed in the college? So unfortunately, no. So you're not allowed to keep pets in your room. But the JCR do have every now and again, they'll have welfare sessions and things where there are animals. So I think last year's college day, llamas came into the college. Alistair, do you want to jump on a bit and talk a bit more about that kind of thing?
Yes. Yes, at our college day last June, which is essentially just another big event that we hold, which is held in college, which celebrates the end of the year, and everyone in college comes onto the back lawn, celebrates. There's like events, there's live music, and there's like hymns and whatnot that we have on the back lawn. Yeah, for that one we had two, I think it was alpacas that came along to that day. So there was alpacas roaming around for the day that people could go up and pet and meet, and that was very nice. I don't know how recently, but we have had in the past, was it one of those puppy petting sessions where dogs come along, but I think that was a while ago. I know that not obviously in college, but in the wider university community, there's also events like that where there is the opportunity to pet dogs and do things like that. So there is animals about Durham, but you can't have pets in your room.
Thanks, Alistair. So somebody has asked, is college quite loud, or are there spaces to be alone and have your own space too? Someone that's lived in, do you want to come in and talk a bit more about that? Delilah?
Yeah, so there are plenty of sort of quieter, smaller spaces. There are several piano rooms, which are just small rooms with like a sofa and a piano, which I always really enjoyed spending time in, whether that's playing the piano or just taking some time in a quieter space. The sound from the bar also doesn't spread too much because I lived above the bar in my first term, and it was never too loud. It was sometimes nice to open the window and get a bit of a sound from what was going on, but it was very easy to find spaces that were quieter to take some time for yourself.
Brilliant, thank you. And for things like studying, so we have a large library, we have group study spaces. So there is always somewhere quiet you can find if you just want a bit of time to yourself. So someone has asked, who can we ask if we're confused about anything going on in college? So there's loads of people you can go to. You can talk to any of the members of staff if you have any questions. You can also talk to your JCR exec or to your FREP team. So Alistair, do you want to come in and talk a bit more about who you can speak to within the JCR?
Yes, I can. Yeah, so in terms of questions for the JCR, we have a lot of people on the exec, as Rose mentioned, who look after like a lot of different aspects of life within the JCR and within college. So for general questions, you can always talk to like the president, which would be me, and I should be able to answer a lot of different questions about what's going on, or if not, I can always pass you on to someone else. And we also have specific people in charge of things in the JCR. So for welfare questions, you can always talk to our welfare officer. And within that, we also have a lot of like lower down welfare officers, which are in charge of a more specific part. So we have all our minority reps. We have 2 assistant welfare officers who should be able to answer questions on that side of things. And we also have our treasurer who can answer questions on financial things. Basically, like for whatever question you should have about something specifically related to JCR, but usually in college stuff in general, since we all are students at Trevs and we all have lived in and experienced things, we should have someone who should be able to answer your question, or at the very least be able to pass you on to someone who will be able to answer your question and will be able to help you with whatever problem you're having.
Thanks, Alistair. And when you first arrive in Freshers Week, so you'll have a team of FREPs, which are older students that are assigned to your landing. So they're basically their job for the first few weeks of your time at uni is just to help you to settle in, to answer any questions you have. And you can talk to them about anything or any of the staff. So we're a really friendly community, and there'll always be someone there to answer the questions if you want to know a bit more about what's going on. Someone has asked, do we have a dance studio or society? Do any of you guys want to come in and talk a bit more about dance in college?
I can talk about that. So we don't actually have a dance society at the moment. We did try and set one up, I think it was last year, where we tried to have different people teach different dances each week. But because it wasn't that popular, it hasn't been continued as a society this year. But that doesn't mean to say that if you are interested in dance, you couldn't set one up when you arrived. It is very easy to set up a society. You just need 10 signatures from other people that are also interested in the same thing as you. And our JCR chair can definitely help you to set one up. But there is also the Dance Society for the university. So just because college doesn't have it doesn't mean that you can't still take part in it during your time at Trevs. So they have a society called InStep, and they teach classes every weekend, so across the Saturdays and Sundays. And they're 45-minute classes across a wide range of dancing styles. So if there is something that you wanted to take part in, they also run their classes for you. And you can start as a beginner, you can be advanced, you can join their competition team, which competes against other universities. They go to Edinburgh and various other places around the country to compete. But if you're not at that level, you can definitely start as a beginner. I started as a beginner this year, and I definitely didn't feel out of place. So it's a great way to take up something new. So just because Trevs doesn't have it, you can still take part at uni.
Thanks, Danielle. So somebody has asked what music societies we have. So I know it's lots. Does anyone want to come in and talk a bit more about that?
So one of the things that I loved about Trevs when I was looking at the different colleges was the music facilities that it has and the variety of music societies that it's got. I'm aware of 3 choirs. There's a flute choir, an orchestra, and I recently helped a friend set up a new music society, and that was very simple to do. There's the Manglers, which is Trevs' jazz band, which is fabulous. And then Trevs often has open mic nights during its bar nights, as well as it has fabulous music facilities. So there's the piano rooms, and it's got the Darrick, which is a suite with a sort of semicircle of chairs and then a stage with a grand piano and things like that. So yeah, the music in Trevs is a big selling point for me.
Great, thank you. Somebody has asked what the college bar is like. So Danielle, you're next year's bar sab, you'd probably be best to answer this.
Yeah, absolutely. So Trevs bar is like many things in Trevs, which is hexagonal. So you've got a big hexagon in the middle, and then outside of a ring of columns, you've got kind of like booths or like sofas which are fixed to the walls. And then in the middle, we can use the space quite diversely. So sometimes we leave it free of all the chairs and tables, and that's what we use for the bar nights that Alistair previously mentioned. So it turns into a bit of a dance floor. But then during the day and during the evening when the bar is also open, there's chairs and tables out, so you can either study there, you can come and socialise with your friends in a bit more of a civilised manner. So the bar opens during the day from 11:30 till 4. So that's what we call coffee bar. So we serve coffees, teas, sometimes there's like cakes or like little snacks. And quite a lot of people come there as a bit of a relaxed space to study and to maybe hang out whilst they've got a gap between their lectures or something. And then people who live in also tend to come down and just sort of sit around and see if anyone walks past and say hello to their friends and things like that, if they don't want to be in the library or in their room studying. And then in the evening, it opens from 8 till 11. And then on Fridays and Saturdays, it opens till 12. And then for any of the other college events that we have, like the big events, like the balls and things like that, they do open till 12 or a bit later. So we serve a huge array of drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic. We pride ourselves on being one of the bars that has one of the most diverse stocks, because we try and encourage better quality drinking rather than the quantity. So I can't remember how many is at the top of my head, but we definitely have a huge range of like all the spirits. We have draft lagers, we have ales, like craft ales as well. We have a fridge dedicated to them. We also have craft ciders. We have all the kind of soft drinks. We have some special soft drinks as well. So we have a huge array. It's definitely such a friendly space for catering for all kind of students that want to either hang out and have a bit more of a chill time, or in the evening to spend time with their friends.
Thank you. Someone has asked, what is Trevelyan's USP? So who wants to come in and talk a bit more about that?
I can. So when I'm always asked this, I always say the community, because I think that encompasses quite a lot and also does really capture what is so good about Trevs. So that is everything from like the fact that we have so many like good societies and good events that are well attended and everyone turns up, but it's also the fact that everyone in Trev sort of knows each other. So when I've talked to people from other colleges, they always say they're amazed at like how close-knit Trevs can be, and how like if you see someone from Trevs in the street, you'll know who it is and you'll probably say hello to them. I think that's really what like encapsulates what Trevs is all about, and it's because of this that we can like have lots of great, really well-attended societies, really great well-attended events. It's because everyone knows each other, everyone gets along, and everyone like knows that we're working together to create sort of a community where people can do what they want and like try new things and get involved with things they might not have done before. And I think that's for me is what like the USP for Trevs is, just the great community that we have and how like close knit and how welcoming it is.
Thanks, Alistair. Someone has asked, how do you navigate having to find multiple outfits for so many formals? So who hasn't answered yet? Alex, do you want to come on?
Sure. What I found is that a lot of my friends and I, we would always share outfits, and I think that's one of the great things about living in Trevs as well, is you can just walk into someone's room and ask to borrow something, and they would be more than happy to do that. And also what's nice about formals is it's not too much focus, so it's a nice opportunity to dress up, but if you don't want to, or if you want to rewear something that you've already worn before, no one will really mind or really notice, and it's just it's more of a focus on having a nice time with your friends.
Great, thanks, Alex. Somebody has asked, what opportunities are there to get involved in college in first year? Rian, do you want to come in?
Yep. Yeah, no, for me, like there's a lot. Like I went to Trevs not really knowing what societies I wanted to join, and ended up doing cheerleading and hockey, which are two things I'd never done before, but it's really rewarding. And so, like, I mean, there's things like cheer, and there's so many things to get involved with, and yeah, the opportunities are pretty much limitless.
Great, thank you. Somebody has asked, how close is the college to the city centre in terms of walking minutes? Liji, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's about 20 minutes maybe, and I work very slowly, so I think for someone that works faster, it's probably going to be about 15 minutes even. And I think it's a bit closer to things like lecture sites and things like that than it is close to city centre. So there are other colleges on the Bailey that will be closer to city centre, but actually I think I find it quite distracting, because being on the city centre means that it's quite busy and quite noisy in lots of cases. and being a bit further away is actually really good in my experience, and it's not too far away either. You can just walk for 15 or 20 minutes and you get there. So that would be my take.
Perfect, thank you. Somebody has asked about rooms being shared or single. So we have 20 shared rooms in the college, which isn't very many in comparison to some others. And we do a room swap each term. So if you are sharing a room, you'd only share for one term. So basically how we navigate that is during the summer before you arrive, you fill in a room allocation form where you give us information about what time you get up in the morning, what time you go to bed, whether you study with music on, whether you go to the library. And using that, we match up people to share 20 rooms that we think will be compatible. If you don't share in first term and you do get drawn to share, then you can pick who you share with. So you can pick a friend that you know you'll get on with. A lot of our students find they really enjoy sharing rooms, and some people do request to share for longer. Delilah, you shared a room, didn't you, in your first year? Do you want to come in for a few minutes and talk about that?
Yeah, so I was sharing first term, and as Rose said, you sort of fill in a form and it asks sort of the times that you sleep and what you study and hobbies and interests and things like that. I got on really well with my roommate, and we actually decided to continue sharing the next term. So the sharing rooms are just a little bit bigger, and there's one sink, but then the 2 beds, and it's a nice amount of space to be able to share with someone, but also to have your own area, and it's just an automatic friend. It's really nice.
Thank you. Someone has asked about if there is a yoga society. Does anyone want to come in and talk a bit more about that?
I can do, yes. There hasn't previously been a yoga society, but just this year, I believe a group of first years have now set one up. So that should be starting from this October for the new year, and hopefully that'll continue. It seems like, from what I can tell, that there's been quite a few people interested in signing up already. So we do now have a yoga society, which again highlights that even if there isn't something that is there that you want to do when you arrive, there's the opportunity and the facilities and support to quite easily set up a new society, so you can do something that you want to do, and also to find people who also want to do that thing, so you can set up that society. So yeah, we do now have a yoga society.
Brilliant. Someone has asked, how does the college interact with the city? Who wants to come in and talk a bit more about that? Jack, do you want to jump on and do that?
Yeah, I'm happy to, although admittedly as someone who didn't go out very much, I'm not 100% sure on how we interact with the city as a whole. But certainly there's amongst the whole university, for example, with kind of drinking and things and going out, there's this kind of unspoken rule that there's certain days that are for the locals and certain days that are for the students. So in terms of how they interact, in terms of keeping out of each other's way, very much so. But the college also, and most of the university as a whole, does have a lot of projects that they do that are involved in helping the community and things. So if you want to get involved with, say, volunteering or just generally helping out in certain ways, there's loads of opportunities to do that, to interact with the community that is around the city. In terms of actual interaction with the city, we're kind of slightly on the outside, not far away, but like there's not too much, it's fairly isolated as an area if you need it to be.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, so as Jack said, we've got loads of outreach projects and things that sort of help us interact, or the students get to interact and get to know the local community better. Durham's a really small city, so you'll get to know lots of people, both sort of students and non-students, and it's a really nice small community. Okay, we've got another couple of questions through. So somebody has asked, what exactly is the JCR and how much does it cost to be a member? So Alistair is our JCR president for next year, so he's probably best placed to answer this one.
Yes, so the JCR stands for Junior Common Room, and it's essentially like a wee students' union, but specific to Trevs. So we organise a lot of the things that essentially make what a college is different from just like your standard halls at like another university, like say like Bristol or Glasgow. So we organise, as I've mentioned before, we organise formals, we organise the events, we help run all the clubs and societies, we offer welfare support to JCR members, and we offer funding to JCR members as well. We also run a shop in college. So essentially we are there to enhance students' experience and also provide services to our members, again, to make sure their time at Trevs is the best it can be and sort of enhance their university experience. So in terms of the costs, so it costs £130 currently to be a member, and that covers your entire time at Trevs. So you pay that in your first year when you arrive as a fresher, and essentially this money that you pay covers all the things that I've just mentioned that we do. So it helps subsidise event costs, it helps us provide the services that we do provide and provide the funding that we provide. Essentially without that money we wouldn't be able to do all the things that we do. But essentially to sum up, like the JCR is like what really helps with what making the Durham experience what it is in terms of the collegiate system and what we do in college. And it is worth, well, in my opinion, definitely being a member and paying the membership fee when you arrive and getting involved.
Thanks, Alistair. So somebody has asked, what sets your college apart from other colleges? Danielle, you've been here for 3 years. If you had to sell the college in a minute or so, what would you say?
That's quite a hard question, but personally, I think Trevs, as Alistair was previously saying, prides itself on the community aspect. Because we are the 3rd smallest college, you definitely get to know, especially your fellow year, like the people in your year, quite well. And then you also get to know the 2nd and 3rd years and the 4th years through all the societies you can get involved with, and through the college events. For example, formals, you might choose to go with your 3 or 4 friends from your landing as a fresher, but then you might get seated next to a group of 3rd years who you've never met before, but you share the dining experience with them, and it's definitely a great way to meet new people really quickly, especially because a lot of people, especially from the 2nd and 3rd years, they do come back into college, even if it's to use the library, the bar, the gym, all the societies they might be a part of, to come to a JCR meeting or something like that. So everyone comes into college and interacts, so that's a really good way to meet people outside of your subject, and to make new friends. The other sort of things we pride ourselves on, I mean, everyone's really friendly, so that's a good thing. We have a lot of facilities that some of the other colleges do also have their own facilities. But as Delilah was saying, we have a lot of music rooms, quiet spaces. We have a big sports hall as well, which doubles up as the room used for orchestra practices and things that require a lot of space. So we're one of the few colleges that does have that kind of facility that some of the other colleges nearby, for example, Van Milder or Aiden's, will come and make use of, because they don't have that kind of space. So we're very fortunate to have that. And because everything's all in one building, you can go to breakfast in your pajamas or in your dressing gown maybe, or you can go to the bar in your slippers. Like, you can walk around all within one building, especially when, you know, maybe it's a bit rainy outside. If you're going to dinner or going down to the library, you don't need to, you know, put on your shoes and take everything with you. So that's something else that's really good. Yeah, I think that's most things I've covered, I think.
Perfect, thanks Danielle. Somebody has asked, what does the average accommodation look like? So we've got postgrads and undergrads on the call, so I'll ask, Ryan, do you want to come in and talk a bit about undergrad accommodation?
Yep. Yeah, so In my first term, I was in a shared room, they're big. They're good. They're well spaced. They're especially in a shared room, you do have your own little area. So you have your own desk, your own bed, and it's almost separated from the other person's little area, which is nice. And then in my second term, I was also in a double room again, but by myself, which was quite lucky. But even like the smaller rooms, the single rooms they're quite big, and like you do have a sense of having your own space regardless of what kind of room you're in. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And Jack, do you want to come in and talk a bit about postgrad accommodation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm currently still in my postgraduate accommodation, so if I move out of the way a little bit, you can actually see what the room is like. So this is in K block, which is the ensuite rooms. So I've got an ensuite bathroom there. It's unlike most of the hallways in Trevelyan. You don't have like a little landing just with kind of 5 or 6 people. You have more of a hallway, and there's kind of 10, 15, I'm not sure exactly how many people on a floor, but it kind of creates you your own little mini community in this kind of block at the back of the college, but it doesn't also separate you from what everyone else is doing elsewhere. You can still go wander around, but they're really nice rooms. You get a nice bed, which is always surprising, having been at stayed in 2 different universities in their college accommodation. I always find that the beds are terrible, but I'm quite happy with my bed here. And just generally, I really like these rooms. You get a lot of sunlight. I actually have one of the worst views, and yet still I have a gorgeous tree, gorgeous bushes, gorgeous grass all in front of me. So I don't have anything negative to say about the postgraduate rooms, that's for sure. I don't know what the rooms in J block are like, where you don't get an ensuite if you choose not to, but certainly that's one of the newest blocks. So from what I hear, they're very nice too.
Perfect, thanks, Jack. So we've talked a bit about the landings and undergrad rooms. Alex, do you want to talk a bit more about that? Just explain to everyone on the call what the landings are and how you found them.
Yeah, sure. So when you first arrive, you just get put on a random landing, which is always really great fun. It's a really great way to meet people, especially with your FREPs. So it's a really good way to meet people like that. And then actually in your second term, you can choose who you live with. So you can choose up to 5 other friends who you want to live with. And that was really, really good fun. And Trevs is nice like that on how it changes every term. So if you're put with people who you don't necessarily get along with, or if you would rather be with your friends, you know that at the end of the term that you can change, and that Trevs is very sociable for doing that.
Brilliant, thanks, Alex. So just for anyone that missed the earlier bit of the presentation, so Trev's landings are grouped into hexagonal groups of 6. So we have sort of a hexagonal landing with 6 rooms facing inwards. So it makes it a lot easier to meet your neighbours than being on a long corridor. And all of our landings are interconnected, so you get to know everyone living around you really quickly. Somebody has asked, does everybody usually join the JCR? And what happens if you choose not to join? Alistair, you'd probably be best placed for this one.
Yes, so in terms of people joining JCR, yes, most people do usually join the JCR. I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it's like up in the 80s or 90% per year that do join the JCR, because what you get for it, that money, is usually seen as being worth it in terms of the 3 or 4 years that you're here and the amount of like benefit you can get from paying that £130. If you don't join, so the things that I can quickly list off that you're essentially excluded from, you can't run for JCR positions. So like if you wanted to, for example, be president or be any of the positions and have a say and be able to help run the JCR, you wouldn't be able to do that. Nor would you be able to have a say in how the JCR run at JCR meetings, which are just like meetings we have every few weeks where we decide on the direction and people can voice their opinions on what the JCR is doing and how it's being run. There are JCR dinners, which are similar to formals, which you won't get priority entry for. You won't have access to some of the services we provide, so stuff like the funding that we provide to people. So if they're doing university sport and they need subsidisation for that, you wouldn't have access to that if you were to not join the JCR. You also wouldn't be able to apply for a job in the buttery. Essentially, a lot of the things that the JCR provides to people, if you're not a member of the JCR, you'll get it at a non-member friendly price, so it won't be subsidised for you, or you won't have access to it. So it is definitely worth joining just for the stuff that you get, and the £130 that you're paying does get you a lot in the 3 or 4 years that you are at Trevs, and most people do for that reason, like join at the start of the time here.
Thanks, Alistair. So somebody has asked whether the communal landings of 6 are all same genders. So unless requested otherwise, it would tend to be mixed gendered when we initially assign you. Obviously, you can make special requests. But then, as everyone has said, when you move landings in 2nd and 3rd term, you get to pick who you live with. So if you want to move within a same gendered group, you can do, or you can be in a mixed group. So someone has asked whether landings are for freshers only. So basically what we do is we're organised into blocks, which go from A to K. So K block and J block are our blocks for postgraduates and returning students. And then the rest of it is all first years. So basically all the first years will share most of the blocks, and then students in 2nd, 3rd year or postgrads will live out in J and K, just because they tend to prefer a bit more of a quiet space. Does anyone want to say anything more on that? Delilah, do you want to talk a bit about living with other freshers?
Yeah, so my landing, there were 6 of us, of course, so myself, my roommate, and then 4 others. And we all had quite similar interests, but we all did very different subjects. So it was a nice way to sort of get a look into other sides of the university, and sort of we go along to different societies with each other, and explore things that we otherwise might not have done. And the landing itself was a really nice space. We would often sit out in the middle of the landing, so in between all of our rooms, sort of eating snacks or playing cards or just having a chat. So it became quite a nice social hub as well.
Thank you. So somebody has asked whether the shared bathrooms and showers are same gender or mixed. So the facilities are mixed gender, but they're not like cubicles, they're individual lockable rooms. So just like a bathroom in a shared house. So the showers, the toilets, all the facilities are in individual lockable rooms for single people. Okay, I think that's all of our questions for today. Thank you so much for joining us. You've had some really good questions. I hope that's been useful and has told you a bit more about the college, and that you'll consider applying to join us at Trevs.